Hello and welcome to Pandora FMS. In today's video, we'll show you how the SNMP console works and how to manage its TRAPS. SNMP TRAPS are used for a type of asynchronous monitoring of events that take place in devices that support this protocol, and they only appear when an event has taken place on the device to be monitored, or when you manually execute a query. By default, the TRAPS collected by Pandora FMS server's TRAP receiver are stored in Pandora FMS log directory. To start monitoring TRAPS in your server's console, first activate this feature. For that, go to Pandora FMS configuration file and look for the SNMP console parameter. If it is at 0, enable it by setting it to 1. Also, if you want the TRAPS to be translated, activate the translate _ variable _ bindings and translate _ enterprise _ strings parameters. Once done, restart the server. If you want to upload more additional MIPs to translate the TRAPS you receive, scroll down to the tab editor and drag the file you downloaded. In addition to being able to upload these MIPs, you may create them manually in the same section. Just click the button to create and complete the fields you have here, so that the OID is translated into the text you indicate. You may also properly configure the SNMP server configuration file, located within the /etc/snmp directory. Within this directory, select the snmptrapd.com file, where you may configure the community for which the TRAPS will be created, and whether or not you want authentication, among other things. Once you complete these steps, you may start monitoring TRAPS. First, we're going to see how to use the TRAP generator to add a few TRAPS to the console, which later we're going to manage through the SNMP console. This tool can be found in Monitoring SNMP TRAP Generator section. A menu will appear with several options that you must fill in to generate your TRAPS. First, enter the IP address of the server the TRAP will be sent to. If you're going to send it to the same server from which you're configuring, leave localhost as the address. The next step is to define the name of the SNMP community, which I will leave with the default option. Next, define the enterprise string, that is the TRAPS OID. Next, choose the value of the TRAP, which will then appear as data. Configure the agent where you're going to simulate the TRAP by entering its IP address. And finally, the type of SNMP through the dropdown. We'll leave you in the description of this video more information about what each section means. Click on Generate TRAP and you will have finished. If you now go to the SNMP console, the TRAP that you just generated will appear. This new window is where all of the TRAPS Pandora FMS TRAP receiver receives will appear. But before seeing what each section of this table means, we're going to comment on some of the filters that the SNMP console offers us. You may filter the TRAPS by the status of the alert associated with its OID, if you have any configured, the block size per paging, the status of the TRAP, that is if you validated it or not, the maximum hours of age of the TRAPS, severity, a free search option with which you may search by entering a segment of the TRAP or by entering the IP of the agent that generates the TRAP, if you want grouping by enterprise string or IP, and finally by type of TRAP. Just below the drop-down, a summary of the active filters will appear, which will change depending on the new filters you apply. We move on to managing SNMP TRAPS. These TRAPS are organized in a table, where each row has an identifying color that indicates the severity of the TRAP you received, and each column offers the type of information regarding a TRAP. In the first column, you find a square, which depending on its color indicates whether the TRAP was validated or not. As we can see in the legend below, red indicates not validated and green validated TRAP. The next thing we can see is the agent that reported the TRAP. This information is of course interactive, which means that if you click on the agent, it will take you to the agent's own view. The third column shows the string and version of the TRAP, and if you extend the information, you will see the OID of the TRAP sent and the type of TRAP. The next column shows the branch or termination of the received OID. Next, you have a column that tells you which user validated that TRAP, if any. And the last column of the table shows the time gone by since the TRAP was received or the date it was received, depending on how you define it in the Visual Styles section. Then you have a column that informs you whether the TRAP triggered an alert. If it appears in gray, it means it did not trigger any. If on the contrary it is in yellow, it will mean it has. The penultimate column will be the one with which you will carry out the appropriate actions such as validating or deleting each trap individually. Besides, you have two buttons with which you may see more information about the trap or edit the definition of that trap. You also have a selection box to carry out validation or mass deletion operations. Additionally, you have a statistics section where you're shown a small summary graph of the agents that received the last 25 traps and their number, and also another graph where the OID strings appear and also a counter. And that was it for today's video. Don't forget it, if you liked the video, smile, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Any suggestions, questions or ideas, please leave them in the comments below. Remember that if you're interested in trying Pandora FMS Enterprise, you may contact us to get a free 30-day trial. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you in social media and in future learning videos.